think from a finance perspective that GAAP reporting doesn't really accurately reflect the risk-return equation in terms of the risk people are taking on and how they are pricing appropriately for it. I think number two is that organizations need to embrace risk measurement and risk management as an enabler of business versus an inhibitor of business. And I think number three, as things get better, I think people have to really focus on pricing transactions on the front end and having a clear view that are they pricing appropriately for the risk that they're taking on to run their business. Number one, they really shouldn't treat it as just a finance and financial reporting exercise. I think they need to view the creation and use of profitability information as an enterprise initiative that can better enable business decision on the front end as well as the analysis of the decisions on the back end. And I think a lot of organizations over the past 15 years have primarily used it and treated it more as a finance exercise, and they need to treat it as an enterprise exercise. I think what organizations can do to leverage this information more effectively is use it more in the front end of the business. And there's three ways they can leverage it. In terms of pricing transactions on the way in on a risk-adjusted basis, I think they can use it in product development to make sure that the products that they're developing are structured in a way that's going to either mitigate risk or have an acceptable risk-return equation to it. And I think number three is in the customer programs they're putting together and the types of customers they're either taking on board, nurturing, or actually customers they're moving away from, using that to understand the risk of the customer relationships they have to enable the business. The obstacles that prevent companies from moving forward on this, I think number one is that there's not a really deep understanding across the enterprise of risk and what it means and how it impacts the business. So I think first and foremost it's educating people in the front office about risk and what it means to the business. And I think number two, it's finding the right level of friction or level of balance between what the business is trying to do market facing and what risk is trying to do to manage the overall risk of the enterprise, and looking at that as more of a partnership versus an adversarial relationship. And I think those are the two things I think would enable this much better. What you can do is find a business unit or a sponsor within the business unit that embraces the idea of basically the risk-return equation and use them as really a prototype or an example of how you can make better business decisions by leveraging this information. Clearly getting the senior level support is important, but that can be said about a lot of things. I think the real enabler here is demonstrating the value of this information to really improve the performance of business, manage the risk more appropriately, and generate not only acceptable returns on the back end, but solid returns on the back end for your business. Okay.